It started with a single photo, a casual snapshot posted to social media that seemed innocent enough. Shen Yue smiling, Dylan Wang beside her, both elegantly dressed at a promotional event. The background was unremarkable, a minimalist cafe setting chosen for aesthetics more than attention. Nothing screamed drama, nothing shouted scandal. And yet, fans noticed immediately. Not the smiles, not the outfits, not even the subtle way their hands seemed to brush against each other. They noticed the message hidden in plain sight. The little details Shen Yue had embedded, almost like a secret language only the devoted could read. It wasn't obvious at first. It wasn't meant to be. That was the point. The first thing fans saw was her gaze. Shen Yue's eyes weren't looking directly at the camera. They were slightly angled, almost imperceptibly, as if she were sending someone a silent note across the room. It was subtle enough that most casual viewers ignored it, but dedicated fans, those who studied every glance, every tilt of her head, felt the electricity. They began to examine her posture, the way her shoulders relaxed slightly toward Dylan, and the small tilt of her wrist. It was all deliberate, every detail crafted to speak without words. Dylan Wang, for his part, seemed oblivious. Or maybe not. Maybe he understood perfectly and chose to keep the performance casual. His smile was gentle, his hand hovering just above hers on the table, a silent acknowledgement of whatever Shen Yue was trying to communicate. Fans began to dissect the image. Threads exploded across forums and fan groups. "Do you see how she's angled her ring finger?" One user wrote. "It's not for the camera. She's pointing subtly at Dylan." Others noticed the necklace she wore that day, a delicate chain with a pendant shaped like an open book, symbolic, some speculated, of messages and confessions waiting to be read. The theories poured in, each one more detailed than the last. Every subtlety of the photo was magnified. Was the corner of her smile a hint of nostalgia? Was the small tilt of her head a coded signal of feelings left unspoken? Was Dylan's slight lean toward her the confirmation fans had been waiting for? No official statement came from either side. Shen Yue did not comment. Dylan Wang's agency remained silent. That only fueled speculation. Because in the world of celebrity, silence rarely signals peace. It signals tension. It signals emotion contained, waiting for release. The photo, though, was not just about public perception. It was about private acknowledgement. Shen Yue had spent years mastering the art of subtlety in a world that demanded overt statements. Every gesture, every glance, every carefully chosen accessory could be dissected, but she had control over the narrative. She knew who would understand. She knew how to speak to those who paid attention. Her eyes told one story, her smile another, and the world only glimpsed fragments. Dylan Wang, sitting beside her in that photo, seemed to capture the essence of her message in a glance. A fleeting expression of recognition passed over his features, invisible to anyone not trained to notice. It was a small nod, a quick shift in his gaze toward hers, confirming that the unspoken words were received. Fans began to recreate the scene. They analyzed the lighting, the angles, the shadows. They compared every previous photo of the two for similar gestures, similar expressions. And slowly, a pattern emerged. Shen Yue's hidden messages were not random. They were deliberate, calculated, precise. She had been speaking to Dylan in plain sight for months, perhaps years, leaving breadcrumbs of communication across media appearances and private event photos alike. The revelation was explosive. The photo had been up for less than 24 hours when social media erupted. Hashtags trended within minutes. Discussions spanned continents. Fans debated the meaning of each detail, creating elaborate charts and diagrams to document every subtle interaction. Theories ranged from romantic to platonic, from professional admiration to deeply personal connection. But the truth, as only those closest could know, lay somewhere in the quiet spaces between the smiles and the glances. It was intimate, hidden, and intentional. Shen Yue herself remained composed. Her social media feed did not acknowledge the frenzy. She posted a minimal comment, a simple emoji a subtle wink, but nothing more. Dylan Wang, equally unperturbed publicly, continued his own schedule, making appearances, interviews, and recordings as though the world's speculation were a gentle breeze passing over a calm lake. Yet backstage, the tension was undeniable. Insiders whispered about the subtle interactions during rehearsals. How she adjusted her hair when he walked in. How he lingered in conversation just long enough to make contact without drawing attention. How their gestures, unnoticed by the untrained eye, communicated volumes. The fans who pieced together the hidden message from that single photo began to realize something profound. This wasn't a moment. It was the culmination of years of silent understanding, of unspoken acknowledgement, of a connection that did not need words to exist. It was beautiful in its restraint, and terrifying, because for every fan who understood, there were millions who misread it, who assumed scandal, who assumed manipulation, who assumed drama. They saw intimacy where there was professionalism, romance where there was subtlety, tension where there was understanding. But Shen Yue's message was real, and the revelation, though explosive in public, had always been personal in nature. That evening, as the event wrapped up, Shen Yue and Dylan Wang were photographed leaving together. Casual, relaxed, polite. Observers might have seen nothing unusual. But those who understood the language of small gestures saw everything. A shared glance, a slight brush of shoulders, a hand lingering just a fraction longer than expected. It confirmed what the photo had already told them. That hidden message, carefully crafted, deliberately posted, quietly acknowledged, was not accidental. Fans went further. They began compiling a timeline. Every joint appearance, every subtle physical cue, every photo that hinted at a private exchange was placed in sequence. It formed a narrative. It told a story without dialogue, without public statements, without interviews. A story only they, and perhaps the actors themselves, truly understood. And then the discussion turned philosophical. People began debating the ethics of privacy, of public speculation, of hidden messages. Were fans crossing a line by interpreting personal gestures? Was social media distorting the meaning? Or were they simply witnessing the power of subtle communication in an age where everything is public, immediate, and dissected? The more fans analyzed, the clearer it became that the message wasn't only about Dylan Wang and Shen Yue. It was about how connection can exist without words, about how understanding can pass silently between two people, about how emotion can be communicated in gestures too small for the casual eye to notice, but vivid enough for those paying attention. Months later, when a magazine asked Shen Yue about that particular photo, she smiled softly, eyes glimmering with the quiet amusement of someone who knows a secret.